What's up, guys? Alex here, and today we are going to be talking about how to find the key of the melodies that you created in the last part of this course. Now, for those of you who are not part of the course, I have a link in the description that gives you free access to this course. It's all on YouTube, but there's some course materials that will really benefit you, such as a list of free software, the slideshows, a mix sheet, a whole bunch of really cool stuff. If you haven't, go ahead, click that link. Like, subscribe, all that funky stuff. Now, as far as this lesson, we need to go over some theoretical concepts. We're actually going to start really getting into some actual theory now, so that way you can do some really awesome things with that melody. So there's some things that will be blowing your mind within the next couple lessons. We're going to be learning about scales. Let's get into some scales. So what are scales? Scales are a collection of notes. That's it. And they're made up of two things: a tonic, which is a starting note, and the intervals, which are the spaces between the notes. And you've probably heard me drop the term intervals a couple times in this lesson. That is a very important concept. So let's start with tonic. The tonic, also very important. It is the note that has the most resolution. It makes those melodies that you've written in the scale of whatever you've chosen sound complete. If I go to one of my previous melodies I hummed last time, which was the dun 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 dun, that note, that's the tonic. You can hear as soon as I sing that, everything just seems to wrap together. If I leave it out, dun 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 dun, it's like hovering. It wants to come back to something. So that's the tonic. And you may have written melodies to where you don't use the tonic. It's not mandatory, but every melody that you've written, you can probably think about the next note or notes that are going to bring it all home. And that's the tonic. And you want to know what the tonic is of your melody. Now, what about intervals? We're going to be getting deeper into intervals later on, but for now, you just need to know two. There's a half step and the whole step. A half step is just one spot. So it's E to F, or D sharp to D, or G to G flat. A whole step is two spots. So that's C to D, C to A sharp, A to B, right? B to C sharp. Those are half steps and whole steps. When you combine the tonic with a series of half steps and whole steps, you get a scale. So the first scale we're going to learn is the chromatic scale. Its intervals are just 12 half steps because the chromatic scale is literally every note in Western music. So C, chromatic scale. And normally people don't say like a tonic and chromatic scale because really just the fact that it's every note, you don't really need to do that. But it's C, C sharp D, D sharp E, F, F sharp G, G sharp A sharp B, and it starts at C again. It continues. It gets started at F, do the same thing. F, F sharp G, G sharp A sharp B, C, C sharp D, D sharp E, F. That's a chromatic scale. This is really important because we're going to be using that to put our tonic and our intervals to construct other scales and chords later on. Keyboards and even guitars are arranged chromatically, right? Each of these little buttons on your keyboard is a note on the chromatic scale. And you'll notice the white keys are the ones that don't have a sharp or a flat in them. So like just D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And the black keys are the ones that do. And we'll go into this very shortly what those are. But all you need to know is that black keys are sharps or flats, white keys are not. And again, you'll notice that there are these groupings in which they repeat. So if you notice, you have 3 white keys and 2 black keys, and then 4 white keys and 3 black keys, and then 3 white keys and 2 black keys, and 4 white keys and 3 black keys, right? The pattern just repeats. And also, since we'll be using MIDI, you'll notice that your MIDI controller is literally just a sideways keyboard. That's it. It's arranged chromatically. And even on the grid itself, if we zoom in really close to this, if it'll let me, like, look, the grid itself, the darker rows, at least how mine's set up, are dark keys on the keyboard. The lighter ones are white keys on the keyboard, right? So the ones that have sharps and flats and the ones that don't. Almost everything in music, your instruments, everything is arranged by this chromatic scale because it's that important. Now, real quick, we talked about the dark keys on the keyboard. What are those? Those are called accidentals. And accidentals are literally just a note that's like, it's just sharp, flat, or natural. So a flat means you take a note, let's say F, and well, F's a bad example because there are a couple notes that don't have sharps or flats as we write them. Um, but let's say you take E and you go down one. Well, now it becomes, if you notice at the bottom, E flat. If you take A, it becomes A flat, right? Sharp is the other way. It goes up a half step. So I go to F and I go up one. It's now sharp. I go to D, I go up one. It's D sharp. And then natural is, it's nothing. It's A natural, B natural, C natural. Now, we'll get into why. You may be wondering, like, why do I need naturals? I'll show that in like 2 slides. But real quick, to quickly remember which is which, how I think about it is like a flat. If you get a flat tire, your car goes down a little bit. Sharp, if you sit on something sharp like a thumbtack, you like pop up a little bit. So that's like a dude with his little bum. And then natural, if you're all natural, walking around, strutting your stuff, you're not wearing anything, nothing happens, right? Well, something would happen if you did that, but no clothes, nothing, whatever. You get what I mean. All right, so real quick, how this looks like on a musical staff is, guess what? Your music staffs are also aligned chromatically. And I really want to drill this in for now, because it's going to help you so much later on. So for instance, this top line here, that's F. So if you have a note represented by these circles, a note sitting on that line means it's F. But if you have a sharp sign next to that note, it's now F sharp. Now, when we read music later on, this is good to point out, the note thereafter from F sharp, even if it doesn't have a sharp note on it, is still going to be F sharp, right? So I've marked them above and below until it's then remarked natural. That's why that natural thing is so important. So now it goes back to F natural, and every note thereafter is natural. So whatever accidental is on there, the notes thereafter are going to take that on until like your next section of your sheet music, like your next bar. And we'll get into bars and stuff later on, but that's why it's important, because sometimes you need to know, oh, am I playing an F sharp or an F natural? You'll also see on the other side here, these things called key signatures, right? Where the sharps are actually next to, this thing is called a clef, and we'll learn a couple of those very shortly. But it's saying like, oh, hey, this line is F, so unless I tell you otherwise, every note on F is going to be actually F sharp. And here, this note here, C in the space, this key signature is saying every C that you play is going to be C sharp. So as you can see, this note doesn't have a sharp on it, these two, but they are F sharp and C sharp because they were noted so over at towards the clef, until, right, you put the naturals next to it. Now they become F and C natural. Awesome. So real quick, clefs. Again, we'll be looking at sheet music from our inspiration. These are pretty simple. There's more than these, but the 3 that you're going to run into most often are your treble clef, your bass clef, which is here on the bottom, and then your alto clef. And they're called the G clef for treble, the F clef for bass, and the C clef for alto. Why? Well, if you look at the treble clef, it's got this swirly thing here. And if you go across, you'll notice that it's on, like G is on the line, right? And then the F clef, you have these 2 dots, and if you follow this line, this is actually F. And then the alto clef, the middle line is C. So you can build there, like from there, what the rest of the notes are. So using the treble clef, you go down, the space is F, you go down, it's E. You go up from G is A, B, C, D, E, F. The alto clef, right? This is C. You go up, D, E, F, G, you go down, B, A, G. Bass clef, you go up starting at that F, G, A, and then you go down E, E, G, B, A, G. Cool. If you put them all together, well, look at that. Everything's arranged chromatically. And actually, while the alto clef normally is written in the middle, there's this thing called middle C that separates your treble and your bass clef. There's like an extra line in the middle. Like you just go G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. You move out of the bass clef range, B, C, D, you're kind of into that alto clef, and then you get into the treble clef, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, right? And then you can put your sharps and flats on there if you need them. Everything's arranged chromatically. And then real quick, ledger lines, you can even go further up and down, right? So if you go up another line, F, the space above it is G, the line above that is A, the space above that line is B, the line above that is C, and the space above that is D. Same thing going down. Cool. Now, let's get into these things called enharmonic tones real quick, and then we'll get into some like actual scales beyond the chromatic scale. So enharmonic tones, basically multiple names for the same pitch. So D and E flat, ba, if that's what that is. D sharp sounds like ba, E flat sounds like ba. They sound the exact same. But the reason why we have different names is because going back to writing these notes, well, let's say I want to write, in this example, I have F and G flat, right? If I want to play those two notes at the same time, I can't. Like if I want to play a chord, it doesn't happen. I can't write F and F sharp. But, I actually did this wrong. Look, I'm so silly. I should go down one because this is actually on A. But what I can do, that's G. Sorry about that, guys. But what I can do is I can write F and G flat at the same time. G flat and F sharp, they sound the exact same. But by giving them two different ways to write them, I'm able to write them on sheet music. That's one of the reasons we use enharmonic tones, among others, but I think that's the easiest to understand. Okay, let's get into learning some freaking scales. So, as we mentioned, scales are made up of two things, a tonic and a series of intervals. We're going to learn 4 scales. We're going to learn the major pentatonic, the minor pentatonic, the major scale or the major diatonic, and the minor scale, which is also called a minor diatonic scale. So, our intervals for a major pentatonic scale are a whole step, a whole step, a whole half step. So we're going to put these two things together to go 3 spaces, a whole step, and then another whole half step. So let's just pick a tonic. We're going to do D, right? D is our first one. If I do a whole step, we go to E. If I do, this should be a whole step. Wow, I'm really screwing up today, guys. Whole step, there we go. It goes to G flat. A whole half step, it goes to A. A whole step to B. A whole half step to D. So D major pentatonic is literally, D is a collection of notes that includes D, E, G flat, A, B, and D. Now, let's move to F sharp minor. These intervals are whole half, whole half, whole. And I can count them out, right? Start from F sharp, which is our tonic for the F sharp minor pentatonic. Go whole half, I go to A, whole step to B, whole step to C sharp, whole half step to E, whole step to F sharp. Right? I wind up back to where I started. Now diatonics are 7 notes. These intervals are whole half, whole half. So for the major scale, and I actually have this on D sharp, let's make it C major. So I'm just going to take this interval structure and I'm just going to change the tonic where this first note starts. Shh, look at that, it moves. Oh my gosh. Boom. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Right, you wind back up. And then minor scale, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, because its intervals are whole, half, whole, half, whole. That's it. That scales. Tonics, intervals. And if you want to change the scale, you just take the interval structure. So maybe instead of going from E, I want to know what F sharp minor is. I just move the interval structure. Boink. Look at that. And now I have F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, and F sharp. Super crazy. It's kind of cool. Like this, literally, these structures move back and forth, and that's how you find out what notes sound good with each other. So, your homework is I want you to find the scale of 3 of your favorite melodies. As always, if you have more, do more. But it's pretty simple. First, I actually have the directions down here. So, first, listen for the tonic. In my melody, it's that dun, 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 dun. All right, E flat is my tonic. Cool. So then I'm going to write out the notes of my melody. Well, look, we learned pianos and midis, right? We learned that they're all arranged chromatically. So you can go on here and be like, oh, well, this is C, C sharp, D, D sharp or E flat. Okay. So that note when I hummed it was like the most resolved. So that must be our tonic, E flat. Cool. Well, then what's this note? Oh, well, it's like, I'll go back from C to B, B flat. Okay, cool. So I got B flat there. I have A flat, G. Cool. So I have B flat, A flat, G, and E flat. Write them out and then take a look at your intervals and be like, all right, well, if I take one of these, like these structures, try one of these fours, and I start it on E flat, will it have what I need? So let's try it. Well, here's E flat. Well, should go there. All right. Well, all right. So I got oh, you know what? It doesn't have A flat in it. I need A flat in order for it to be in key, which it does not. All right, well, what about this minor pentatonic? Let me try this. All right, so E flat, it's got that. Cool. It's got G flat. Okay. It doesn't have G, so that's not part of it. Shoot. Okay. Let's try this major version. Let's move it to E flat here. And it's got E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, and E flat. Oh, cool. It's got everything. Awesome. It's got the notes I need and some extra. What about this minor one? Did that work? Oh, wait, no, it doesn't have G, and I know I need G. Cool. So I know that mine is in E flat major, diatonic. Cool. So also FYI, it might fit more than one scale, and it might not fit any of them. That's okay. We'll learn what to do next if those are the case. That's pretty much it. Take your scales, write out the melodies, and I'll see you in the next lesson, because then we're going to take that and we're going to start learning about keys and modes and lots of really cool stuff to make it sound really wild. See you next video.